Good evening, welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is the Marion City Council meeting for Thursday, December 5th, 2019. I'd like to welcome people we have in the audience, members of the architect team and the construction management team for the library project. So welcome. Thank you for being with us. Okay, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Roll call, please.
Mr. Draper?
Here.
Ms. Atkins?
Here.
Mr. Jensen?
Here.
Mayor Abu-Osley?
Here.
Mr. Sternad?
Here.
Mr. Brandt?
Here.
Ms. Cadelia?
Here.
I should add that Council Member Sternad is joining us by phone tonight. Brandt. Councilmember Brandt is joining us by phone tonight. Okay, at this time we have a moment of silence. Thank you. First on our agenda this evening, we have a presentation from Brooke Prouty with the Uptown Organization. Welcome.
Thank you. Today I'm going to present our annual report. Usually I have 10 people at this annual report, so thanks, Holly, no pressure this year. So I decided to go into a little bit about Uptown because some people in the audience may not know a whole lot about our program. So Uptown Marion is a nationally accredited Main Street Iowa district, and our goal is to drive continued revitalization, growth, and preservation of historical character through the appropriate design, promotion, and economic strategies that improve our community. We were started as a program in 2013. We have a 20-plus block district, 165 buildings, 128 businesses, and about 281 residents. Our district is kind of a funny shape, but it encompasses both of the historic entities, so the Granger House and the Heritage Center, and then it generally runs along the commercial corridor. So what is a designated Main Street? The Main Street approach is a program of the National Main Street Center, so it is a national approach. And then nationally, we have about over 1,000 Main Street communities, and in the state of Iowa, we have 54 under the state program. Some states don't have programs, is another thing to note. In Lynn County, we have the most Main Streets, and we have 4: Central City, Mount Vernon, Czech-Nubo, and Uptown. So in general, we have a really great network of other Main Streets that we can collaborate with. Since 2013, we've seen over $20 million in private investments in both building acquisition, rehabilitations, and new construction projects. We've received almost $1 million in state grants, mostly for the rehabilitation of our historic buildings. We received a $350,000 Art Place America grant for the Uptown Artway. We've seen 89 business starts and business expansions and have had over 10,000 volunteer hours. So some information more on this past year. We've seen 13 new businesses, 4 restaurants, 2 retail, 7 services, and about 26 net new jobs. I calculated that 26 before some of those restaurants came on, so I think it's probably a little bit more than that. And also one thing to note, the restaurant industry is typically a lot of part-time positions, but what we're seeing with these new restaurants is that there are a lot of full-time positions, which is great to add to our district. At the Main Street Iowa Awards this year, we received 3 awards, one for reaching that $20 million benchmark community. Scott Swenson received our Volunteer of the Year award. He works for the SBDC. And then we also received the Best Beautification Project in the State of Iowa award for the 2nd year. Last year we won for the Uptown Artway, and this year we won for our Veteran Banner program. We had our Open for Business competition, and we had 5 businesses apply. We give out $1,000 locally, but businesses can win up to $14,000 at the state level. We made it to the second round with the business Roots and Bloom, who won our local competition. A couple more accomplishments. This last year, we sold out of tickets for Eat, Drink, and Be Marion and raised over $11,000. We secured a $75,000 challenge grant for the restoration of the Owen Building, also known as the Made Right Building. We met with 29 prospective businesses, locally administered 5 grants of over $3,000 for business improvement initiatives, and much of that is for sign grants. We created a virtual reality history tour of the Uptown District in conjunction with the Marion Public Library, completed a 2-part community-wide survey to direct future initiatives as part of a market study program that I'll talk about a little bit later. We participated in a community exchange program with Mount Vernon and got some great feedback from them. We worked with the City of Marion on a number of projects, including the removal of obsolete signage in the Uptown area, and hosted 10 events and collaborated on 8 community events and activities. Our current board president is Heidi Cordes, and then our incoming president is Nikki Kettlecamp. Both are excellent retailers and great at what they do, and I think have some great vision for where we take it in the next year. And then we also have a lot of great volunteers. We have probably over 100 volunteers that help us out. In this last year, we had over 1,000 volunteer hours, which value about $25,000. 2020 projects. We found a couple of things that we wanted to work on before our market study and a couple of things after our market study. So one of them was a family-friendly uptown. We created a subcommittee to focus on how we can be more family-friendly, both in our retailers and our events and all across the board. Continue expansion of our virtual tour of Uptown, partner with Prospect Meadows on tourism initiatives, have better parking information and solutions, increase signage and wayfinding, make our website and social media more tourism-focused, promote the Uptown Artway, increase our investors and business services, and then continue our Market Studies and Strategies program. So Market Studies and Strategies was a program we applied for Main Street, Iowa this past year, and we were one of 3 communities that were able to participate. Basically what this is Main Street, Iowa comes into our community and helps us develop strategies based off of a number of different points. So the first thing they did was they came and they visited our town and they had us give them a tour that we would give to either prospective business or a visitor. Then they took that information and they combined it with some Esri data and gave us this really great resource that we can use when we're promoting Uptown to different businesses or even new residents. It talks a lot about our population, our demographics, but also where the gaps are within our community. Then the second part, we did a consumer and a business survey, 2 separate surveys. We came back with the survey results and had some discussions on what those results mean. And then Main Street, Iowa took that information back and developed a market strategies packet, which I can get to you if you guys want it. It's 22 pages, so I can send it to you digitally, save a tree. And so some findings from the surveys that are included in that, there's a lot of great information, but one of the top reasons people come to Uptown is for dining and our events, and then shopping and the library. And the top places most frequently visited are the Marion Public Library, the Uptown Snug, Ramsey's, Zoe's. So it kind of matches up with the first question, the first results. So between the 2 surveys, one thing that both consumers and businesses showed the highest level of agreement with was that the special events create vibrancy in Uptown. So that means that we're doing our job right with our events and our farmers markets, that sort of thing. And what they both agreed on, the highest level of disagreement with the statements that we provided was that Uptown has things to do for many age groups. So that's kind of where the family-friendly Uptown subcommittee came out of. So how we're going to use this data. We're going to use this data when we're talking about social media. We're going to match consumers' social media usage with the usages of the businesses. So making sure that our businesses are reaching the right audiences. We're going going to look at the industry gaps. What did people say they wanted to see in our community? An ice cream shop came up, or a sports store. So some of those things came from what people want, but we also looked at what are people going elsewhere to buy. So are they going outside of our district to buy sports equipment? Or are there different industries that could be added to other places? So could a coffee shop expand into ice cream so that we're not adding new businesses that are competing, but we're just expanding their line of services? Residential demand and the pricing. So we asked people, would they want to live in Uptown? And how much would you pay to live in Uptown? And we found that there is a market out there for people that want to live here, and they will pay higher price points to do that. We saw one red flag, and that was some of the ages of our businesses. So we've had a lot of businesses that have been around for 20 plus years, and Main Street Iowa said that's a bit of a red flag because we want those businesses to stay around a lot of times. And so we need to figure out how we can help them with some succession planning to keep them around, and that usually takes 1 to 2 years to get your business ready for that. So that's a service we can offer to those businesses. We asked a lot of questions about the success of our businesses and how they see the future, and most of them see the future as being bright and planning to expand in the next few years. And lastly, Ready to Recruit is the second phase. So this was the first market study and strategies program. Main Street Iowa has another program called Ready to Recruit, and that one more is emphasized on what businesses and how to recruit them to your community. So we will apply for that in the following year. So the two strategies that Main Street Iowa helped us develop, the first one is going to be to continue to be an arts and entertainment district, focus on furthering develop Uptown Marion as an arts and entertainment district, providing a mix of art, culture, history, entertainment, and commerce in a public space for the entire family to enjoy. And secondly, to be a destination commercial shopping district, and this kind of plays into that tourism piece that we find important. Focusing on further developing Uptown Marion as a strong regional shopping district offering unique dining and retail shopping experiences surrounding the historic Marion Square. So we saw that last weekend when we had Small Business Saturday and it was raining, but the businesses were still packed full of people. So that was great to see. It's also awesome to hear people complain about parking on a Friday night, because that means people are in the businesses and they're shopping and they're eating and dining, and we like to see that, even though people might not. So next step, we're going to apply for that program next year. On the council agenda, we have a request for the support of the council that is required for our accreditation. So they just want us to make sure that everyone in the city is on board with the programs and happy with the things that we're doing. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
Questions?
Sure.
Ms. Gadilla?
Yeah, I was interested, I don't know if it's too soon to share, maybe it is, but on the family-friendly note, I know you said you put a subcommittee together. Do you have any initial ideas in terms of programming or business solicitations that you guys will seek?
Yes, so we've met once, and we came up with a long list of ideas.
Okay.
So there are ideas that are could be really simple, such as just stating on our events descriptions what age groups the event's for. We've had the tiny fair in the alley. What age group is that for? To more complex of, is there a more robust program that we can do with businesses to make the restaurants more family friendly, where we have kids kits of activities that they can do while they're at a restaurant or waiting. So there's a lot of different activities that we've identified, and at the next meeting in January we're going to categorize them.
Cool, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions or comments for Brooke?
Keep up the good work.
Thank you for everything that you and your board and your committees are doing. I think there's definite momentum in Uptown. We can all feel it. People in the region feel it. Even today somebody said, oh, hardly a day goes by that we don't see a news story about a new restaurant or something new in Uptown Marion. That's wonderful to hear, and I agree with you. Last Saturday, Small Business Saturday, was fantastic to see the stores filled, and people are finding things that interest them down here in terms of culture, entertainment, dining, shopping, and we want to keep that going. And it's very true that the people comment about the parking, and what I say is, if we didn't have a parking problem, I'd be worried. There is not a vibrant city anywhere that doesn't have parking issues, and so it's something that we can work on, but we should be happy that we have parking problems. So other than that, thank you very much.
We have Christmas in the park tomorrow, so.
Yes, everyone come out
come
and
down
support
for
the
that.
Christmas in the park. You can ride the carriage rides. Okay, at this time we have a public forum. This is a time for comments from members of the public on items that are listed on the agenda but not associated with the public hearing. So if anybody's here to address the council on an item that is on the agenda but is not associated with the public hearing, this is the time to do so. If there's anybody here to address the council on things that are not on the agenda, that there's a time for that at the end of the meeting. So we will, I know there are a number of people here with the library project that want to address the council maybe. If you do, I would just ask, and you're welcome to, everyone's welcome to address the council. I would just ask that you keep it brief and that you don't repeat something that someone else has already said, and would be happy to hear from you. So, and we also ask that you fill out the card and state your name and address when you come to the microphone and speak clearly, because the meeting is recorded. So.
Mayor, council members, my name is Tim Getty, representing the Heritage Area Agency on Aging, 6301 Kirkwood Boulevard, Southwest in Cedar Rapids. And I just wanted to take this very brief opportunity to thank the city and also the Marion Public Library for the continued support of the Encore Cafe project. Our agency, and along with the collaboration of the city and the Marion Public Library, have developed that project. And just a very brief update, since the program started, we've served over 18,000 meals, and over half of them have been at the library, and then just about half have been over at Lowell Park. And we actually had the pleasure the first time that the Iowa Commission on Aging attended a dining site was actually this afternoon over at Lowell Park, and they commented how great things were. They asked about any challenges. I said one of the challenges is we're doing too good of a job and expanding a lot faster than we thought. We thought we would serve a fraction of the meals that we are serving. And one of the great challenges is space, especially over at the library, but sometimes also at Lowell Park, where we've had to change some what we've decided to offer. We needed to move things around, maybe offer things at different locations, if you will. And especially what we have found is the success of the older adults drawing the baby boomers. 23% of those that have attended the Encore Cafe are age 60 to 69, and 46% of our participants currently live alone. So that is the biggest goal is to afford the opportunity for socialization, and then also a healthy meal, things of that nature. But we really wouldn't be able to do this without the continued support of the city and then also the library. Thank you. Have a good day. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council?
Thank you. My name is Jana Madsen, and I live at 2390 Plymouth Street in Marion, Iowa, and I'm here to support the Public Library Project. Just want to share a little bit of information about why I'm so passionate about the library. They say it takes a village to raise a child, a village with a library, that is. Such was the case with my son, Owen. My oldest boy was diagnosed with ADHD when he was in kindergarten. I'm sure there are plenty of people here that would love to judge me for medicating him, but that's not why I'm standing here. I came here to tell the story of a little boy who struggled with everything. Tying his shoes, sitting still, remembering to hang up his coat every day, and to learn to read. And by the time that we figured out he was struggling, after checklists, weighted blankets, special chairs, you name it, he was behind in school. And his teacher rallied us. She found an army of people to help, a guidance counselor, a district therapist, a reading specialist. We supplied the pediatrician, and we vowed to read every night with him. I combed the internet every week for books at his guided reading level. I copied them into Word documents and cross-referenced them with the library holdings at Marion Public Library. a big bag of new books sat beside his bed every week. And every night we sounded out words together. Faithfully, we read with him, and when the kindergarten school year ended, he was barely reading at grade level. He could not afford the summer slump. I kept up with lists and cross-referencing and checking out books from Marion Public Library. All summer long, religiously, without a break, he read. It must have been 2 months into first grade when Deb, the school reading specialist, called me. I don't think I took a single breath after she identified herself on the phone. Was she telling me that all those efforts had amounted to nothing? Had all that supplemental learning only confused him more? And she laughed in my silence and then said that she had never seen such improvement in all of her years. We had done it. My boy was no longer in need of a remedial reading group at school. She did it, I did it, he did it, and our library, with a bounty of nonfiction, his favorite kind of book, had made it possible to turn my boy into a reader. We had done it together. This village. In 5th grade, Owen read 2,750,000 words, putting him in the school's top 10 for the Reading Counts contest. Today, he is a freshman in high school at Linn-Mar, and he still reads every night before bed. He shares my love of books and my love of Marion Public Library. I will be forever indebted to Marion Public Library and the people who make it what it is, an important part of his story and our village, and I look forward to the next chapter in the new Marion Public Library building. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Fade Bowens. I live at 2231 Tamarack Circle, and I am here to talk about the library. So, a library is a place where you can find books, and books can be a source of entertainment or facts or factual knowledge. They have something for everyone and very good, cool programs to help people. And let's say you just want to hang out and play video games. I mean, there's a time limit, but yeah, you can do that. You can look factual information up on the computers. You can rent a study room, or you can just hang out with your friends. And we need a new library, and that's why I'm here to say I hope that you go ahead with granting the $7 million so we can have that new library, because we need it a lot. Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. And if there are others, if you can be ready as soon as she's finishing up so that we can keep things going, please.
Okay, my name is Aurora Castash, and I am the owner of Montessori School of Marion. I came here in support of Marion Library. Our school goes to the library twice a month with our students. We have students between the ages of 3 to 6 years old. This is a very important time in their life to learn, to have a love for learning. Just like the other mom before me explained, children who are exposed to library visits and to books from a very early age, they grow to be great readers and great speakers when they grow up, and very confident people. Our children not only love to come to the library as an involvement with the community, they love to come to the library for the independence that this gives them. They feel very empowered when they can come to the library and have a story read to them, and then free to go and choose a book on their own without their mom and dad, just with the teachers there supporting them. They learn what shelves to go to look for, what kind of books they want to read, what are the proper manners in a library, and they also learn how to check out their own books and to use a library card, and how to care for those books, and they're more likely to be enjoying reading those books at home with their parents because of this experience. We also benefit greatly from the Marion Library, because all the librarians, they provide for us support with books that we need. So on a monthly basis as a teacher, I am so thankful for them. They are picking up books for our unit of study. So we leave the library not just only with the children who are picking up their own books, but we also leave the library with a bag full of books that we need for that month. So that saves us a lot of time. Another thing that the library does great is for our younger students at our school that cannot go to the library, there's a librarian that comes once a month to our school and reads to them, and then she provides a box of activities for that month for them to work with and enjoy. And as a school, we are so thankful for everything the Marriott Library contributes to the development of our children, and I hope that this project will be going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. My name's Scott Founds, 2231 Tamarack Circle. That was my son that was up here just a few moments ago. I'm here tonight in support of the library and in asking for your vote both to remove the motion to support the bond off of the table and to vote for that. Now, there are others that have already spoken and may spoke after me who are much more eloquent about the needs of the library. We've seen the professional assessments of what our library capabilities are right now and the need for a new facility. So there's no reason to kind of review that. What I am asking you to do is to take that vote tonight. Now is the time to do that. Unfortunately, sometimes voters don't understand that when we vote for representatives, their job is to represent us not just in the decisions on the consent agenda, but on all the decisions. That's why you guys are in the positions that you are, and let's face it, take some of the heat that you do take, and I respect that. And tonight is the night to make that decision. I understand the reason for tabling last time, but we really kind of need to move forward on this now. It's been 10 years. It's time to go forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Seeing that no one else is coming forward, we'll move on with the agenda. I do want to note that the library items, there are 3 items that in section G on page 7. We are going to move those forward to the first thing on the agenda, on the regular agenda after the consent agendas are taken care of. So as soon as the consent agendas are voted on, then we will take up the library issue. Okay? Is that okay with everybody?
Yep.
Make sure.
Sounds good.
Okay. We'll move on with the consent agenda.
Okay. Mayor, I move to approve the consent agenda as follows. These include items A1 through F6, which are resolutions 28130 through 28138.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented, including items A1 through F6, resolutions 28130 through 28138. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved. For the next section, I will turn over the gavel to Mayor Pro Tem.
Your Honor, I move to approve the consent agenda with Mayor Abousli's abstention from voting and discussion items A1 through F1, resolutions 28139-28149.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to approve items A1 through F1, resolution 28139, 28149 for the approval of to consent on the agenda with Mayor Aboulafsi's abstention of voting and discussion. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of resolution 28139 through 28149 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Motion passes with the abstention of the mayor. Thank you. I turn the meeting back over to the mayor. Thank you.
Okay.
Your Honor, I move to remove from table motion directing staff to engage bond counsel and proceed with public notice of future library debt issuance. This was tabled on November 21st of 2019.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to remove from the table the motion directing staff to engage bond counsel and proceed with public notice of future library debt issuance. Discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion to remove from the table the motion directing staff to engage bond counsel, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. I assume Councilman Brandt that said yes?
Yeah. It's really quiet. Will,
Yes, sorry, go on.
did you, you agree with the removing from the table?
Yes,
Okay.
Okay, so the motion passes. The motion is now removed from the table. So,
So I do next, okay? Your Honor, I move to amend motion directing staff to engage bond counsel and proceed with public notice of future library debt issuance by adding with a maximum of $7 million.
Second.
it's been moved and seconded to amend the motion directing staff to engage bond counsel and proceed with public notice of future library debt issuance by adding with a maximum of $7 million. So the motion as amended would read, direct staff to engage bond counsel and proceed with public notice of future library debt issuance with a maximum of $7 million. That's the discussion on the amendment. Discussion on the amendment? Okay. All those in favor of the amendment, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, the motion is approved.
Mayor, I make a motion to direct staff to engage bond counsel and proceed with public notice of future library debt issuance with a maximum of $7 million.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to direct staff to engage bond counsel and proceed with public notice of future library debt issuance with a maximum of $7 million. Discussion. Yes, ma'am.
I do have things I want to say. I just didn't know if we could hear from Lon on the history we requested first.
Mr. City Manager?
Thank you, Your Honor. I provided the council with a memo with this information in it, but in the interest of the public, wanted to be sure that everybody was on equal footing as far as knowledge heading into this decision. On Tuesday, the City Council had asked for some supplemental information regarding how Marion's debt had shaped up in years where we had gone through similar building cycles. As I iterated on Tuesday, Marion in a lot of ways is on 20 and 30-year building cycles for a lot of our facilities. Police station is a good example, built in the early 1980s, and then we built a new one and opened it up in 2013. Same thing with City Hall. The last City Hall was purchased and renovated in 1977. This building was built in 2006 and occupied in 2006. So we went back down into the archives in the basement to the pre-digital days and reconstructed some of that information for the City Council. And so as I'd iterated, there were a couple of different peaks. If you look back to the 1980s, just for comparison purposes, this would have been after the city built the prior police station and when the debt for the current swimming pool were both hitting the community at the same time. And back then, we took a jump from 1984 to 1985. The debt service levy went from about $1.50 to $2.06, and the city peaked at about 30% of our bonding capacity being used. It took a little longer than we expected to put the information together because this is pre-rollback and early rollback days, so we had to make sure that we were actually comparing apples to apples on the usage of debt to make sure we were being consistent in how it was being presented. The debt service levy then peaked in 1986 at $2.35. 1987, it was back down to $2.04. It did dip down a little bit in 1989, but then in 1990, it went back up again into the $2.08 range. So then in the 1990s, the next round of building projects would have included the current fire station headquarters, Fire Station 2, and then the current library were both built within a couple of years of each other. And you can see that a similar thing occurred as far as the impact it had on the city's overall debt. So by 1998, we were sitting at about $2.35 per thousand for the debt service levy, and we peaked at about 42% of the city's then debt capacity was used to carry those numbers forward. And then come forward to today, the current and projected ones. These are based off of the data that's included in the current CIP and the recent and planned debt issuance for the library. The peak that we hit was actually in 2015. That was right after we issued the debt for the police station, and we also did a large tax increment finance backed bond that allowed us to pay for the Marion Enterprise Center. It paid for the relocation of Marion Iron, the relocation of APC Emirate, and a lot of those types of expenses associated with the Central Corridor. So that was a big year for us as far as the issuance of debt. That year, we hit 48% of our debt capacity, and then by 2018, our debt service levy was sitting at 228, and you can see on here that it's really hovered between 228 and 204 ever since. So it's always been historically in that range. When I look back at what it's been since about 1995 forward, the average for that whole period is $2.16 per thousand. So this is one of the things that our community's growth in taxable valuation does allow us to do. There's a direct relationship between how much we can finance with that debt service levy staying at that same amount and the assessed valuation of the community. So just wanted to finish that up. I know the council had asked for that information for context for making the decision tonight, so that's how it shapes up.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a few things to say. I want to start by thanking Lon and Jill and Amber and all the other staff who pitched in for a flurry of questions in the 11th hour. And I apologize for all of that recently. But I've been kind of banging the gong for months about how I believe that we should go out and ask the public how they feel and take a vote on the library. And I've gotten, like 50-50 feedback from people, quite honestly. And I decided, let me go back to the beginning of the lost vote and look at what was put out there to the public that they did vote on. And that's what I looked at this week, and that has compelled me to change my mind. I do not believe that we need to go out and ask the public because we already did. And my point in wanting to go to the public in the first place was to give them a voice, and by going out for a new vote on something that, when I looked at the scope of what was pitched in terms of the expansion of the library, the services it offered, the programming, the resources, I would be going against all of the people who voted in 2013, and that would, that kind of goes against. And so I apologize for taking so long to come to that conclusion, but the beauty of not having to vote until tonight was that it allowed me personally that time to do my due diligence and get this information and come to that conclusion. The other thing I compared it to, because yes, we're adding $7 million to the total, was the fire station was a big part of the ask in the lost vote. A third fire station, an aerial truck, and a couple of other big pieces of equipment, and those two have exceeded what the ask was, and that just has to do with the cost of construction, the cost of goods. It's almost 7 years later, and so comparing apples to apples in terms of the fire station ask in that lost vote and the library ask in the lost vote, I would be doing something different by asking for that vote. So I wanted to be clear and explain why I was changing my mind. And then the other thing, to just give an example of what I do believe would warrant going out for a public vote, would be if we wanted to build the aquatic center. I wasn't on council at the time, but we did a detailed commission of the needs of the community and maybe how much it would cost and where it might go. And I sat in the audience and I listened to the presentation. And if council were going to consider a large ticket item like that was not previously put out to the public, that's something that I think would warrant a referendum vote. So just to kind of clear up, I do believe in giving people a voice on big ticket items because this is the people's money. But we already asked, and so I'm not going to call for that vote tonight. And then the other thing I just want to say is that I have always been in support of the library. For me, the controversy kind of stemmed around the vote issue, but I'm super excited for this project. I think we've all been anticipating this and excited about where it goes and watching it. I'm excited that it's staying right where it is. It's literally across the street. We didn't have to buy new land. It's on library property. And I just can't wait for it to be done and to continue to support it as it goes. And thank you, everyone who's here tonight. Thank you for those who have reached out. To those who have reached out and wanted me to push for the public vote, hopefully this makes some sense, but feel free to call, and I'm happy to speak about it further, but that's all I have to say. Thanks for the time.
Thanks. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd echo some of the same comments Renee has done. Again, the key decision tonight is not whether we are in support of the library. We have stated that numerous times over the last several months. The decision tonight is the City Council going to make this decision by a reverse referendum, or are we going to decide to go out for a vote by the residents of the City of Marion? So that's the decision we're really talking about tonight. And again, when we met 2 weeks ago, I think Nick absolutely made the right decision to say, let's postpone this for 2 weeks. I know some people were not happy about that. That was the correct decision. We have all 7 of us represented up here tonight. This is a decision by the entire City Council, and I think that voice is extremely important. So we've gotten a lot that allowed us to get a lot more information, to feel better about the decision we're going to make tonight. The city is in another period of growth, evidenced by the new Y, the new fire station. We're talking about a new library and a new public services building as well. So all of this is coming at the same time. We just needed to make sure that we were doing our due diligence as we make that decision. So I'm really skewed the other side of who I've been talking to or who's been talking to me. I only had one person in the last 2 weeks get hold of me and say this should be a vote by the citizens. Everybody else has said and stated, which has solidified my position, let's get going, let's move ahead.
Lon, any other questions? Other comments? Lon, would you just explain the reverse referendum for purposes of our recorded meeting here, people listening to the meeting, people who are here?
Sure. To borrow a phrase that our bonding attorney often uses, with the reverse referendum process, what the City Council is doing is at the next meeting you would contemplate legislation to set a public hearing for the issuance of future debt with a not-to-exceed number. And that announces to the world that the City of Marion intends to borrow money for a project that's considered a general corporate purpose project. It is in an urban renewal district. It's named in our urban renewal plan as a potential project, and so that allows it to proceed underneath the reverse referendum process. So once the announcement goes out to the public, when you set the public hearing, that starts the clock ticking heading up to that public hearing. The public has the right to circulate a petition. I don't know the exact number of votes. We'd have to contact Lynn County. Rachel may know, but it's over 500, I know that, but I can't give you the exact number off the top of my head. But the City Council then receives that petition. You still have to act to proceed to the election, but the City Council is compelled to do that. The language that gets put on the ballot is very prescriptive. It's basically, shall the City of Marion issue X number of dollars of debt for the construction of a new public library, and that would be voted on. And looking at the timing for the way it works out, that likely would be a September election. There's not time between the date of the public hearing announcement and then when we would have to have ballot language to Lynn County to make sure that we could check off all the boxes to hold an earlier election in the year.
Okay. I too want to say that I appreciate everybody's patience. These are not very easy decisions to make, and I know that everybody's excited about the project. I know that there's a lot of enthusiasm and support and passion for the project, but we can't let that get in the way of making thoughtful, well-informed decisions. And the fact is that well, it's unfortunate that unintentionally, I think that the issue was portrayed as support versus non-support for the library project, and I think it's clear that we all support the library project. There are, speaking for myself, I don't think there's anybody in this room that has been out in the community promoting a new facility for the library and explaining to people why it's needed, and who has supported the library staff and everything they do and the function of the library in our community. So I was a bit dismayed that was coming out as non-support because we wanted additional information, additional time to make a proper decision. So I appreciate everybody's patience, and I thank everybody for that. I've heard from some people who feel that the citizens should vote on this, that this is a vote that they should have a say in, but I am convinced by what Councilmember Gadela is saying, that that's already been done, so I will be supporting it. Yes, sir.
Yes, Your Honor, the only thing I wish for is that certainly in our engineering department, we have somebody who is a structural engineer and has that knowledge. We are building 3 new expensive buildings right now, and I would like, in lieu of what's happened to this building at its age and needing to be destroyed, and the previous police station, who lasted 8 or 9 or 10 years, needed to be done away with. I would hope that as we move forward, and I have been one who wanted to build onto the library. I've been in favor of it since we began. But I would hope that we would have someone in our engineering department who's going to have the capability to go out and inspect these properties as they're built. Thank you.
Okay. Other discussion? Okay, we'll vote. All those in favor of the motion to direct staff to engage bond counsel and proceed with public notice of future library debt issuance with a maximum of $7 million, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved. And I think that Councilmember Brandt will be leaving the meeting. Thank you. Back to the regular agenda, Mr. Jensen.
Mayor.
Okay.
Your Honor, I also have to.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 28150, approving software as a service agreement with RecDesk LLC regarding the Parks and Recreation Management Software Program.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28150, approving software as a service agreement with RecDesk LLC regarding Parks and Recreation Management Software Program. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion of resolution number 28150, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved.
Mayor, I move to receive, file, and concur with TAC report regarding a request for no parking on Charter Oak Lane Southeast. This will be Cindy Rudish, 5020 Northridge Point Southeast.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to receive, file, and concur with the Traffic Advisory Committee report regarding a request for no parking on Charter Oak Lane Southeast. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution Number 28151, approving the establishment of a no parking zone on the east side of Charter Oak Lane Southeast, north of Northridge Point Southeast.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28151, approving the establishment of a no parking zone on the east side of Charter Oak Lane Southeast, north of Northridge Point Southeast. Discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 28151, resolution 28151, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion's approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve Resolution Number 28152, approving change order number 2 with Christner Contracting Incorporated regarding the 2019 fire station project regarding poor soils and value engineering for a credit of $571,155,025.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28152, approving change order number 2 with Christner Contracting for the 2019 fire station project regarding poor soils and value engineering for a credit of $571,155.25. Discussion? You need to explain that a little bit?
Yep.
Thank you.
We did not have this information on Tuesday, so I'll quickly go through it. So basically, this change order has two portions of it. The first is the rock stabilization for the building pad. That is an addition of $21,631.75. And then there's the value engineering. So all this was in the packet that I emailed the City Council, and that has several items broken down. Looks like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 different items that were value engineered for a total value engineering of $592,787. That'll be deducted from the contract. So netting those two together, that's the amount of $571,155.25 of a credit. Also in your packet, there is it's basically information, but it's the request for change order 3 that's dated 12/2 of 2019, and there it has a total not to exceed of $49,513.05. So moving forward, there will be not for the winter conditions, so we had them look at cold weather protection, if there's other issues with the footings, we want them to look at all those numbers. That way we weren't coming back all the time. So that way we can see what that total amount could be. Doesn't mean it's going to be that amount. That's the maximum to exceed. So when I add that in there, the total potential increase would be $92,144.80. The value engineering is almost the $600,000. So the net, we're looking at over $500,000 in credits based on the value engineering. So even with the bad soils that we have on the site and the high water table, we're still doing good. Not to say that there aren't going to be other changes that are found during construction that don't have to do with cold weather or soils. If there's something structurally or something with the actual building, or if there's doors that are changed out, there could be other change orders, but at this point, this is where we're at on this project. So staff is recommending moving forward. If there's questions regarding the value engineering, the chief or Amal can go into those details if you'd like. I know it's a lot of information, but.
Two quick questions.
Go ahead.
Two quick questions, Mike. First one is, are there any more areas being looked at under the value engineering? And two, how is all of these changes with the wetness, the weather, and everything else, has that had any impact on the original schedule?
So additional items, I'll let Amal speak to that. But as the value engineering, one of them was moving the date. So it is extending the schedule of substantial completion to 11/30 of 2020 and the final completion to 12/31/20 as part of the value engineering. And with that, that's $20,000 in credit. I don't know if there's other value engineering that you guys are looking into.
No, that would be all of the items that are considered or they have potential savings on them.
Okay.
the liquidated damages, which added 20 more days to the schedule. So they asked if we are to give them 20 more days, they credited us 20,000.
Further discussion?
Good news.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor of resolution number 28152, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion's approved.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 28153, approving purchase of a portion of the property located at 2442 Fifth Avenue from Galena G. Caldemeyer in the amount of $5,885.66.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28153, approving the purchase of property at 2442 Fifth Avenue in the amount of $5,885.66. Discussion? Okay, all those in favor of resolution 28153, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 28154, approving an acquisition plat of a portion of property located at 2442 Fifth Avenue.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28154, approving the acquisition plat of a portion of property located at 2442 Fifth Avenue. Discussion. All those in favor of resolution 28154, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 28155, approving an acquisition plat of a portion of property located at 694 7th Ave.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28155, approving acquisition plat for a portion of the property at 694 7th Avenue. Discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 28155, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved.
Your Honor, I move to approve resolution number 28156, approving an acquisition plat of a portion of property located at 708 7th Avenue.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28156, approving an acquisition plat of a portion of property located at 708 7th Avenue. Discussion. All those in favor of resolution 28156, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion's approved.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 28157, approving an acquisition plat of a portion of property located at 707 7th Avenue.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28157, approving acquisition plat of a portion of property at 707 7th Avenue. Discussion? All those in favor of resolution number 28157, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved.
Mayor, I move to approve resolution number 28158, approving payment in the amount of $12,868.10 to Robert and Rebecca S. Lacey and Lynn County Treasurer related to the acquisition of portion 2294 Fifth Avenue in accordance with condemnation proceeding associated with the Central Corridor project.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve resolution number 28158, approving payment in the amount of $12,868.10 to Robert and Rebecca Lacey and the Lynn County Treasurer related to the acquisition of a portion of 2294 Fifth Avenue in accordance with condemnation proceedings. Discussion? Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
like to amend the motion. Is now the appropriate time?
Sure.
Your Honor, I'd like to amend so that the resolution number 28158 reads approving a payment in the amount of $12,686.10 to Robert and Rebecca S. Lacey, Lynn County Treasurer, and the Lynn Area Credit Union to pay E-List related to the acquisition of a portion of 2294 Fifth Avenue in accordance with condemnation proceedings associated with the Central Corridor project.
Second?
Been moved and seconded to amend Resolution 28158 to read approval of a payment in the amount of $12,686.10 and to add Lynn Area Credit Union to the payee list. Discussion? All those in favor of the motion to amend, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say no. Okay, the motion now reads to approve payment in the amount of $12,686.10 to Robert and Rebecca Lacey and Lynn County Treasurer and Lynn Area Credit Union related to the acquisition of property at 2294 Fifth Avenue in accordance with condemnation proceedings associated with the Central Corridor project. Discussion on the amended motion? All those in favor of resolution number 28158, please say aye.
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 All those opposed, say no. Motion is approved. Lon, we have a discussion on ethics policy.
Yes, this is something that the City Council had brought up in regarding potential revisions to the ethics policy. I think Councilwoman Gadela became fairly engaged in it when we had presented the policies and procedures and the ethics policy for boards and commissions, and had some questions about what could be applied to City Council as well. So the City Attorney, Kara Bullerman, has done some research on that and has a report back for the Council.
Hello. I know that there were some questions on Tuesday about whether or not you should have any handouts, and I probably should have sent out a memo letting you know that I would just be discussing this tonight. I took a look at the original procedures and policies provision that you guys passed relating to the boards and commissions earlier this year, and the primary body of that in the first page is all either items that already apply to council or are not applicable. For example, we can't do a gender balance requirement. You guys are elected officials. We can't require the voters to vote a specific way that way. There's no need for any establishment clause because you guys are already, your council, you're established by our ordinances. And then applications, again, you're elected officials. But the ethics policy in particular, I'm not sure if you were aware of this when you looked at it, but it's actually the exact same policy that you guys have. It is the council policy. And so there's not really anything for me to change in your policy based on that document. I know that at the election time there was a lot of discussion in public forums and in other places about what if a council person refuses to sign an ethics agreement. And I will, I'm going to put that question to rest right now. This ethics code was passed by resolution. It's not an option. That was decided, it's passed, it applies to all council members. You're required to act according to this code of ethics whether or not you agree with it. When you take your oath, that's part of what you're agreeing to. And I think we've had some discussions already about how it's enforced, and I'll get to that. But one of the things in that resolution that is not being done is that council is actually supposed to review this annually to see if there is anything that needs to be changed based on either Iowa law or something that's come up during the past year. And so at least I know in the few years that I've been coming to the meetings, I don't believe that's ever been done. I don't know that it's ever actually been part of the normal practice. So that's something that I think is probably important for you guys to know, and maybe it's a good idea to just have it come up once a year. Everybody takes a look at it, and if we need to talk about it, we can. But just to kind of go through what the ethics requirements are, I think that would be helpful for some of the audience as well. and the people who listen to the recording is, first and foremost, you're required to always act in the public interest. So that's a responsibility of all of elected officials. You're up here to represent the citizens of Marion, the people in your wards, and so you have to act in the public interest. And then the second one is to comply with the law. That's kind of a no-brainer. You took an oath to uphold the Constitution, the laws of the state, the city ordinances. There's a lot of laws. People always look to lawyers and say, well, tell me, what about this law? And usually you'll get a response from us. Even if you ask us here, we'll grab our phones to look up the code section or whatever. You're not going to remember all of them, but hopefully through your onboarding and things like that, or if something comes up, either Ryan or I will be able to say, okay, here's the relevant code section. And some of that you guys have experience with quite frequently are the closed sessions meetings. We don't have to spell that out in a policy for you guys. You're required to follow that already by law. There's the gift law that you guys are all fully aware of. There are laws relating to just different procedures that we follow on a regular basis. And so when those things come up, if I think there's going to be a violation, I will always make sure I let you know. I'm not going to sit by and watch you guys get yourselves into trouble. I think the one that's probably the most important, and the one that probably is what I think a lot of people had questions of relating to whether or not an ethics policy would be signed, is the conduct of members. And so I think that's a really important one that I kind of wanted to highlight tonight. The professional and personal conduct of members must be above reproach and avoid even the appearance of impropriety. And so I understand that all of you have your public life. You all also have your personal life. Not everybody is going to understand that. And so however you conduct yourselves when you're not being council member or mayor can still reflect on the city, and you may still have repercussions for that here. A prime example is social media. There have been several court cases recently relating to public officials and social media. I'm sure most people are aware that there was litigation involving Donald Trump and his Twitter account. There have also been issues in the state of Iowa. If you post things on social media relating to your duties as a public elected official and you open that up for comment, that will be considered part of your official and public duties. So not only do you need to conduct yourself accordingly, you also can't open that up as like a public forum and then shut people down or block people, because the courts have found that to be a violation. So even when you are acting in your personal life, even if it's on your personal page, you still have to keep in mind that you're an elected official, whether that's fair or not. That's how the rules are, and that's in our ethics code. The other half of that is that you have to refrain from abusive contact, personal charges, or verbal attacks upon the character or motives of other members of council, boards and commissions, the staff, or public. That includes the city at large. So that's something that everybody's agreed to, at least in this room. You guys have all taken your oath. That would be something that any future elected official would also have to abide by. So if they have an issue with a staff person or a citizen who comes in and makes a complaint, you're not allowed to say, okay, this person is insert whatever choice name here. You have to conduct yourself accordingly in a professional manner. And I think that's the one where there's a fine line between freedom of speech and, I guess, abusive conduct, personal charges, and verbal attacks. So you are allowed to voice disagreement. You're allowed to voice your dissent. And I think ultimately, if you got into it, we may have some First Amendment things there. But if you're all willing to abide by that, then I think right now that's not something we really need to change. The other side of that is there's also a line that you cross when you make personal attacks, that you run into other legal issues, and you would be opening yourself up to civil liability. But if you do that in your professional capacity, you could potentially also open the city up to liability. So if you want to make disparaging remarks about someone, please wait until you are no longer in office, because we do not want to defend that claim. Then the next one is respect for process. You guys are actually really great about that. When we tell you you have to do something like a roll call vote, you're great about doing it and not saying, but we never had to do that before, so I'm just going to thank you on behalf of the legal department right now, when we tell you you have to do something, you guys all do it. When I say you have to turn over your emails, you turn them over. I appreciate that very much. And I think the staff appreciates that as well, that we don't get a lot of pushback from you on those. Not to say we don't appreciate when you ask us why. I understand that, and that's fine. Conduct of public meetings, that you will prepare yourself for public issues, listen courteously and attentively, focus on the business at hand. I don't think we have a huge issue there either. You guys are really good about sticking to the agenda. I know that's a sticking point sometimes for the legal department, but I think nobody is disruptive in here. You don't interrupt each other. In the past, that's been something that the mayor has brought to attention when we get into heated discussions, and I know he's asked before for people not to talk over each other or to address each other appropriately. That's also partially for the recording purposes. If you address each other as Councilmember Jensen, then you know exactly who I'm talking to, as opposed to if I just say, well, you, it's less respectful, and people who are listening at home won't know who I'm talking to. Conflicts of interest, that's one where if there's a question about it, always ask for advice. You can always run that through line. You can run that through legal. There is two aspects of that that we usually make our advice upon, and one is there actually a factual conflict of interest, or is there an appearance of a conflict of interest? And those are two very important things, and that kind of goes back to the conduct of members, in that we want to avoid the appearance of impropriety too. And so I know that issues come up with you guys before where you've asked us. Everybody's aware that the mayor has part of the consent agenda he doesn't participate in every week for that reason, and so I don't think that's really a big issue. I don't think we have an issue with gifts or favors in here either. Confidential information. That's the next part, and that's the part where I think is probably the biggest question outside of the conduct, and that relates to the disclosure of confidential information without legal authorization. That would involve the things that we talk about in closed session when they are items which would be considered confidential to the city, not necessarily subject to open records requests. Things like that. If we are talking about an evaluation of an employee, or if we are talking about, I know if you are back there and we're discussing a lawsuit and you go and talk about that, that's a breakdown of attorney-client privilege. And so it's not necessarily that it's confidential in that it's something about me or about anybody who's involved in the lawsuit, but it could jeopardize the lawsuit, and that can jeopardize then my representation of you. And so there's things like that would be considered confidential. I would go as far as to say that anything that's discussed back there, I would advise not to be disclosed for the reason that it could cause harm to the city, which goes against several of these principles that you are agreeing to uphold up here. And some of those things are available for discussion after the fact, like when we have a land acquisition and it's finalized. Then the records of the closed session are no longer confidential. They're not sensitive. We're not worried about any sort of negotiation or lawsuit out of it. And then the other items in here, I don't think, at least not on this page, I don't think we have an issue with use of public resources, representation of private interest. I think tonight was a prime example. Councilwoman Gedalia stated that she is a supporter of the library, but she wanted to make sure that the public had their say. I think that was a good example of where she was looking out to advocate for the people who voted her into her position, even though she loves the library project. And I think you all have projects like that, where maybe you have to vote based on what the people who elected you want, rather than just going off of your, hey, personally, I think this is a great idea. And then that also kind of goes into the advocacy. It is your job to advocate for the people who voted you in. And so it's also important, though, on that you don't use that position to advocate for your own personal interests. So those two kind of tie together quite a bit. And then there's the policy role of the members. That's another kind of straightforward one. You guys agree to adhere to the mayor-council forum. I don't think we have any issues there. I think that one thing that is really important in this one, though, is it does delineate the responsibilities of council versus the responsibilities of the city manager. So it talks in here about how the city council determines the policies, they get the advice, information, and analysis that's provided to you by the public, the boards, the commissions, and city staff, but that you don't take a role in day-to-day operations or administration of the city. The city manager is responsible to you for that side of it. And so all the departmental activity, everything should be brought forward by the city manager and staff rather than initiated from, if we have individual council members going to staff and saying, I want you to work on this, or this particular project is super important, you should put everything else on hold. That disrupts the day-to-day function, and also maybe you are the only council person that's interested in that particular thing, and everybody else wants them to keep working on what they already were. So it's just kind of an organizational section. The next section is the independence of boards and commissions. Don't go throw your weight around and influence the Parks Board or the Library Board or whomever to do what you want them to do, or try and somehow get them to change things based on how you will vote on their next piece of legislation that comes forward. This one is one that I don't know that we have actually really talked about that much, and that's a positive workplace environment. And I think that's relevant here, not just for you guys to hear, but I think it's also important for city staff and for the public to hear that our ethics code states that you guys will support the maintenance of a positive and constructive workplace environment for city employees and for the citizens and businesses dealing with the city. So essentially what you've agreed to is that you're supporting all of the staff and the city manager, and that this is not these people on the sides here against you guys, or these people up here against all of these guys back here. It's really kind of a team type situation, even though you might not always agree. And I think that's a really important thing to understand. And I don't know that the public always gets that feeling or understands that fully. It's also important that when you are dealing with the city employees, that they know that there's limits to the direction you're able to give them because of this policy, and because direction from you guys needs to come from a council vote, and not just from if we get one rogue member who decides that we have a new priority and direction for the city of Marion, because I think all of you would want to be consulted if something like that was going on. The next thing is the implementation of this particular ethics code. This is a self-enforcing policy. So it's up to you guys to call each other out on this. If you feel that you are not meeting this ethics code, whether that's as a whole group or whether there's an individual. And there is a procedure in here for that. And this is the part, it's actually in this policy, that it will be annually reviewed by the city council, and the city council shall update it as necessary. I have lots of stars by this one because I knew this was one where you had some questions. And so then it kind of goes down into how that enforcement will happen. And I think it's important to note that here it says that council members who intentionally and repeatedly do not follow proper ethical standards may be reprimanded or formally censured by council. This is not an all-inclusive list, so it goes right into intentionally and repeatedly. If somebody violates this code of ethics and you know about it, you guys can deal with that on your own. If you feel like you need to call one of your other council members out, I wouldn't necessarily advise doing that here in public forum and in the council discussion, but it may be something where you bring it to the attention of the mayor and say, hey, this happens, and I think maybe that's something we need to address, because all of the complaints initiating from you guys do need to go through the mayor. That's if they continue. It says it should all be referred to the mayor in private. And I think that in general, if one of you did something and you weren't even realizing it was a violation here, you'd probably want somebody to let you know so you didn't do it again, or so you could take whatever remedial actions you would need to take. The other thing is that if you are going to make a complaint about the mayor, that goes to the mayor pro tem. So you don't have to worry if you have an issue with the mayor's violations of the code of ethics. Should there be any, you don't have to address those with him. If the mayor does not take action after there have been reported violations of this code, then it can be brought up in a public meeting. So that you do have a method for that as well. If there is a code of ethics or code of conduct behavior that's outside of something you have observed, if it's coming from a city staff observation, a citizen observation, a business observation, that can be brought up to the mayor, and the mayor is then supposed to ask either the city manager or the chief of police, surprise, to investigate the allegation. And I think that's in there because sometimes the allegations are relating to criminal issues. So then it is their responsibility to refer that to the mayor, and then it can be either discussed. You can advise, the mayor can advise the member on what the behavior was and how they should either remediate that or, you know, just, hey, don't do this again. Or it can be something that can be done as a censure to the full council. And so I know that there were a lot of questions about what happens if somebody's violating. The other thing that's really important to remember is that these are your methods for enforcing this. That does not prevent anybody else from, say, there's confidential information disclosed. That would not disclose someone from initiating a civil suit. So I know one of the things that has come up before is, why do we discuss personnel issues in a closed session? Some of those are very personal issues. And if we discuss those in an open meeting, or if somebody back there hears something confidential and comes out and says, hey, guess what I heard about this particular city employee in this session, you're opening yourself up to some potential civil liability there as well. It also does not preclude any sort of actions in relation to violations of other laws like the open meetings or open records type things. Just because you have an action taken against you here does not mean you would then not be liable for that in another forum. Now, if these things happen and you're still continuing to have issues, or if there is a really egregious violation, the remedy for that is to file a petition to remove the person from office, and that would need to be done in district court. There is a mechanism for doing that by council, but that cannot be initiated by another council member. And I would actually hesitate to do it in any way other than in district court, just based on the recent case law that involves other cities who have tried to remove a council member or a mayor, and they have lost in district court under a due process violation, because you would be essentially the people who would file the complaint, you would be hearing the complaint, you would frequently be the people with evidence of the complaint, and you would be the people deciding the complaint. And then to top that all off, you all have an interest in the outcome of the complaint. So it's not really a fair mechanism for determining whether or not somebody should remain in office. And that petition is something that can be filed. It's done. It can be done by the Attorney General. It can be done by the county attorney. The county attorney is actually responsible for filing that, so there's not a conflict with the city attorney. So that's essentially a rundown of what we already have. And so when I looked that over, I also went and took a look at what are other cities doing. And the first things that came up were all the things we can't do, like let's not try and remove council members on our own. Then I took a look at what the different ethics policies were, and whatever was going on in 2012 must have been the year for this particular form, because most cities actually use this exact same form. So I don't know if that was something that the league put out, if IMAA put that out, if just one particularly brilliant attorney drafted it and every other city stole it. I don't know. But for whatever reason, that's what kind of happened here. The only thing that's not in here that I would see adding is maybe a provision for the removal in district court. But other than that, I really looked, and I don't really see anything extra that either could be added or that I felt should be added, because I think it's all really covered really well in here. My biggest recommendation would be that when you do your onboarding, that's a time where you guys are getting a ton of information. Some of you have done this before, but a lot of you have never sat on council or held a public office. And so when you're first doing that, we're throwing volumes of information at you at one time. And so if we build in to maybe review this once a year, I think that's a great idea, even if we don't I don't need to come up and necessarily present on it every year. I'm totally fine with staying right over there. But if you guys each kind of have that marked down as we need to review this in January or November of each year, and then if there's a concern, we can bring that up and we can talk about it. I think that's like a really great idea because some of those things you learn all at the beginning, you're not going to retain everything. And it's the same thing with, I recommend kind of refreshing on the open meetings and open records requests information at a regular basis. Any questions?
No, I personally just want to say thank you. I guess I'm heartened to hear that we're already doing all the right things and we're not, we don't have a skimpy policy or anything. So thanks for the information.
Anybody else? Thank you. This time we have a public forum for any item that was not on the agenda this evening. Anyone would like to address the council on anything that was not on the agenda this evening? Free to do so at this time. Please come forward. Okay. Thank you. We'll move on to council comments. Start with Renee.
The only thing I'm going to say is that I promise not to discuss NFL stuff, but you all know what I'm thinking. That's all I got.
I'll bite my tongue. No, nothing, nothing.
Nothing.
Thank you for joining us. Have a good evening. Meeting is adjourned.